A few years ago, we made a desk video on semi-automatics, and I think I had a Browning bar, the sporting rifle, and a Remington 7.42, but I don't remember ever heading out and shooting one. So I thought I'll show you this rifle. Kind of lucked out with the buttstock. They don't normally have this grade of wood, but this is a really fine piece of wood. Makes owning the rifle, you know, that much more special, at least for a lot of people. This one is in 6mm Remington. I don't know if we can focus on the barrel markings. They're just right there, 6mm Remington. And obviously this is the rifle version, not the carbine. Carbines are harder to find, but they're all good. And well, here's the neat thing about this story. And one of the reasons I'm making this video is people wrote me, you know, things like, how can you make a video about such a bad rifle? And a couple of people told me they used these in Philadelphia, and then a whole bunch of, in Pennsylvania, and then a bunch of people wrote me and said, that's not true. Semi-autos aren't allowed. So I'm sure that that's correct. I didn't check into it. Anyway, that's a footnote, but on the 7.42, the people said, really bad, JAM-O-MATIC, terrible, and yet I've not really had any problems with them. The 6mm round, by the way, 6mm Remington, I have the magazine in my pocket, so it's worth looking at it. This is, if you study this kind of thing, it's a neck down 7x57. You may have heard of the 257 Roberts. So the 257 Roberts is the 7x57 neck down to 25 caliber. It's often called a quarter bore. And this is one step further. So it's 6mm. Came out around the same time as the 243 Winchester. Of course, the 243 Winchester won all the races, and hardly anybody pays attention to the 6mm. And yet it does have a slight ballistic advantage, but people are, I think, accurate in their assessment that it's not that much of a ballistic advantage. And if all your friends have a 243, it's kind of natural to get a 243. So the 6mm is still around. Some custom rifles are still built for it, but it's not all that common. Anyway, this is 7.42 and 6mm, and here's the really funny thing. I took this out and test fired it, and I wanted to show you that they don't jam. And of course the rifle jammed, and I'll explain why they jam, but first I'm very curious to see whether it jams now. And of course, operation, very simple. That's why they sold, I'm pretty sure they sold 1 million of these. So when you hear that, you know it can't be really bad. I mean, it could be bad, but not really bad. But anyway, so pretty slick to me. And we have our little target up there. There we have a jam. So I guess this would be what people would be complaining about. And I'll show you why on this particular rifle. It's actually quite simple, but it may be not self-evident. Let's get the magazine out. Okay, so most of the time it's these feed lips, and you can see that the bolt is kind of riding on the feed lips. So it picked up the round, if you saw what happened there, and would have gone home, but it's catching. There's friction here. You can see it. The metal is worn. So all it takes is a few minutes with a good file. I have these Swiss files, which, you know, remove metal just so clean, and that should solve it. Maybe we'll reload and just see what happens with a couple more shots. Other than that, you saw the accuracy of these is fine. I think the looks are good. Everything's good about the 7.42. And people talk about chatter and that the inside of the receiver gets destroyed. You have to oil these. Most semi-autos, anything with moving parts, you know this, needs to be lubricated. Whether you use some grease or oil, try to use a heavier oil actually. I can show you something else. The locking lugs, we know this is empty. You can see them in there. There are multiple locking lugs. On later versions, they switched to a 2-lug design, but you can see it's really a turning bolt. May not be too easy to see in this light, but it's an excellent system, and the gas system is good. Anyway, we'll take a moment, reload, and then see how it behaves on 3 more shots. And on the tugging thing, to get the magazine out, that was because I didn't close the action. I'm always thinking safety, safety, safety. All right, I'll load a few rounds. Okay, here we go again. Remington 7.42 Woodsmaster. I noticed it says on the action, and so on that one, we had no jam. You know, if it's a major mechanical flaw, it should jam all the time. You know machines are like that. So I will touch up those feed lips, and I have every confidence that this would work without a hitch. Very fine rifle actually, and I bring it up because people often talk about the cost of firearms these days, especially with inflation. And the 7.42 is very reasonably priced on the used market. Just, yeah. If you found one of these in 308 or any 30-06, really, you can't go wrong. If semis are allowed in your jurisdiction, I never know exactly where people live. Generally speaking, semi-autos are allowed in North America, but of course there are exceptions. On that run, I wasn't really concerned about hitting the target. I just wanted to show you how quickly these 7.42s shoot, or any semi-auto. And that might be a little bit silly, but these are always impressive machines when you run them like that. And we've got a round actually still in the, there was an empty still in the action. All right, well, thanks for watching. And we'll bring out the bar next time and maybe shoot them both. Oh, and if you're wondering what this little piece is, people ask me about everything. That's just a sling swivel. I should have rotated it down. I think this is aftermarket. I bought this used, and I didn't put a scope on it. Most of the time, that's kind of where a deer would be. So I have no problem seeing, although fading light, I could use a scope. All right, well, as usual, that's a lot to say. Take care, and we'll see you next time.